a couple years now since I've really uploaded any content on my cars consistently. Channel's been suffering a little bit because of it, but I'm here to make a quick update video on the cars here. This is late February 2026, just to kind of give you guys an idea of what I'm planning for 2026, trying to get some more videos out. I do have a lot of old footage still to go through and edit. That's going to be uploaded to the channel. Some footage is 2-3 years old. A lot of it is from finishing the rebuild on the Miata. These videos didn't do too great on the channel. I made 8 of them to start to rebuild the engine, replacing all the seals. As this car gets around 20 years old, everything starts to leak. Happy to report, I finished that project in mid-2023, and it hasn't leaked a drop of oil since. Still have the Civic. It's got the winter set up on it still. We've had quite the winter here in Hudson Valley, New York. We've had, a couple of huge snowstorms that brought, multiple feet of snow here. This car hasn't skipped a beat in the snow with a Blizzaks on it, 17x8. And then 235/45/17 Blizzaks on the car. The videos I was making on this car right when I got it, I made a lot of videos for about the first year, and they did really well, and they're still doing really well. Hundreds of thousands of views on them. And I've been getting a lot of comments to, post more about this car, and it's been pretty uneventful for the last couple of years, honestly. I made a lot of videos. I've had some problems with it for the first year that I owned it, but since then, in the last couple of years, coming up on 3 years of ownership now, it really has been uneventful. The car's been reliable. The hatch hasn't leaked at all. I've had no more engine leaks with the oil. All that stuff that got resolved within the first 6 months to year of me buying the car has been still resolved since. Still a fantastic car. I want to make some more detailed videos now that I've owned it for almost 3 years. I have almost 26,000 miles on it, which is by no means a lot yet, but it's a lot more than I had when I was making videos of this car. Last time I think I posted consistent videos of this car is when I had around 6,000 miles on it. I had all other kinds of projects going on. I got a 2007 Honda Rincon that I picked up. So I ride that around the property with my kids a lot. We have a blast with that thing, and it's kind of a unicorn. I'll make a separate video on it. It's extremely low hours, and it's basically a time capsule from 2007, original tires and everything on it. Yes, don't be surprised that there's some random Miata videos thrown in here. Those were a few years old, and I just have them chilling on my computer, and I just want to get them out of my computer and finally post them on YouTube. I know there's a few of you out there that will appreciate it. Of course, this is our family hauler. This is our 2021 CR-V. You guys know when I made a lot of the Civic videos, one of the key reasons I wanted that car was for the port-injected, naturally aspirated K20 C2. And yes, I did talk a lot of crap about the 1.5T, but I've owned this car much longer than the Civic. Coming up on 5 years now with the 1.5T. And I'll be honest, it hasn't given me any issues, but it still doesn't mean that I'm confident that this car is not going to have issues in the next 5 years, when it gets 10 years old. Like I said, we've had no issues with this car as I got new tires and wheels on it for the wife, and she probably gives it the worst environment a 1.5T can. She has like a 2-mile commute, and she loves that remote start during the winter that this thing just idles a lot and then drives 2 miles down the road. So that's kind of worst case scenario for fuel dilution. I haven't really done any oil analysis on it. I've just been proactive in changing the oil every 4,000 to 5,000 miles on it way before the maintenance binder, just to be sure that that I'm alleviating any of the risk of letting the oil be in there too long with fuel building up. And there definitely is some, because early on when I got the car, I did report a couple oil changes in that the oil level did rise a little bit. So there's definitely something going on with it, but as long as you change the oil frequently enough and do a long trip once in a while, you shouldn't have any problems. Like I said, I haven't had any problems with this car. We did put the tow package on it, so it's got the trailer lights and the 1.25" receiver. But overall, like I said, problem free. It's been a great car for the kids. Of course, I've got another project going on that I'll be making a video on. I'm working on this. Maybe a lot of you on my channel may not even care about this, but this is a 1984 Club Car DS electric that I inherited, and putting about $1,000 into it because it had all the lead acid batteries in it. Doing a full lithium conversion on it, and not just a lithium conversion, I'm replacing pretty much everything on it to bring it up to modern spec. I've replaced all the resistor coils and the 1984 electrical setup on it and bringing it into a modern era with a solid state drive system and all new electronics, leaving the rear end and the motor factory, 1984 original, and doing a little bit of a hodgepodge of an onboard charger, controller I picked up used on eBay. I'll be making a detailed video about this. Of course, I'm adding a battery monitor screen up front. So this should just be a fun little toy to run around the property with. And the last car I really haven't talked about. It still gets some love on the channel, but you guys have been asking about it. You can hear it's running. Last track day I did with this car was 2023. If you saw recent videos after that track day, I had some knocking concerns, and I started uploading videos of stuff I was doing to fix it. I still have some more footage to upload to kind of close the loop on all that. I did rod bearing replacement in the garage. I did oil jet bolts. There was a problem with it with low oil pressure at idle. So I did a lot of things to it to try to troubleshoot what it could be causing it. I'll be uploading those videos soon, but just know those are a year or two old already. I've made some other parts for the car, made some changes. It's no longer got the oil cooler on it since I've been doing a lot of street driving. I did design a catch can relocation kit. I'll make a more detailed video about this for the Radium catch cans. They're in a much better spot now to empty them, and just a much better spot in the engine bay overall than the factory location that the Radium bracket's mounted in. I have been street driving this car the last couple of years, but I'm still not 100% confident in some noises it's making. I don't know if you can hear right here. This is a warm idle now. It's got a little bit of a knocking noise still. I can't tell if it's valve train. You know, I did the rod bearings and all the OEM ones were in spec, but I replaced them anyway. The car runs good and it sounds healthy when you rev it up. I've taken it to 9,000 RPM many times in the last 2 years on the street, and it hasn't skipped a beat. It hasn't made any weird noises. It's kind of been steady state like this. So it may just be a little case of me being paranoid, but I still think there's something weird going on with the engine, and I just don't have the time really to dig into it more and troubleshoot. But the good news is the car is running. I'm going to be doing, you know, one of the reasons I pulled the oil cooler out is to have a smaller volume of oil in the engine that I can replace with pretty much 100% of it with an oil change. With the oil cooler, if there is any crap floating around in the oil, you pretty much have 2 quarts in the lines and in the oil cooler. Here's the cooler that's out of the car, and the lines are up here, as you can see. But when you do a cooler and you do an oil change, you're pretty much only replacing 5 out of 7 quarts that's in the engine, so you're never doing a full flush. So what I'm doing here, and to get a better idea of the health of the engine, is I put about 1,500 miles on this oil, and I'm going to be doing another Blackstone analysis, so that when I drop the oil next time here in the spring, I'll send it out and I'll see if they find any metal contaminants in it. I've also been cutting apart the oil filters the last couple oil changes. I have found some stuff in them, but I'm still trying to gauge what a normal level of stuff is in the pleats of an oil filter. There's been nothing significant, but I have found a couple of small particles of metal that, you know, a lot of the research I've done online shows it's still pretty normal to have a little tiny pieces here and there of metal. It's just if you don't have them all over the filter media, then you know your engine's still pretty healthy. But I'm going to do the Blackstone analysis and get a better idea of the health of this engine, and I'm going to try to make some more videos of it for you guys, because I know you guys are missing content on this car. The last video I really made on it, you know, I had the 9 Lives Racing wing. The last 3 years I ended up selling that just because I knew I wasn't going to be tracking the car much in the last few years. I got some of my money back on that. Absolutely love the CR wing, so I still have the CR wing on this AP2 trunk, and I have the factory trunk with the OEM lip spoiler still in my shed. So those are the 2 trunks I had for it. I had 3 at one time, but I sold the 9 Lives Racing, like I said. It kind of just made the car unbalanced. Yes, I went faster at Watkins Glen with it. I went down a second and a half, down from a 212.4 to a 211 flat. But, you know, I had to make some pretty drastic changes to the car with how much downforce it added to the rear. And I didn't have any kind of aero up front, so the car was pushing quite a bit. But it was pretty nice to be 130 miles an hour and have that rear end feel very planted. But just because of the fact I'm street driving the car a lot now, and I'm not tracking nearly as much as I used to. Other things I really haven't mentioned on this car since the last kind of walk around video I gave. I think that was 4 years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago. Lots of love on it, but I've put an oil temperature gauge in the car in addition to the pressure. As you can see, we're at a hot idle right now. I'm sitting around 20 PSI. That was around 10 to 5, especially after I got off the track. It dropped to like between 5 and 10 PSI, which is why I kind of went through and did all those changes to the engine just to troubleshoot a little bit of things. But I did the oil temperature mainly for street driving, and that's kind of what told me that the oil cooler was not really great for street driving. Even though it was thermostatic and it was a 200-degree thermostat, I would struggle to get the car above 160 degrees oil temp in the pan driving on the street. And for a street car, that's definitely not ideal. You know, I could have made some plates to block off the cooler up front, but I just decided to rip it all out for the time being to, like I said, do a little more troubleshooting with the engine and alleviate some of my concerns with the noises I'm hearing. One other major thing that I really haven't mentioned yet is a few years ago, I pulled the AP1 transmission out. It was starting to make a little bit of a whining noise, so I knew the scarcity of those parts, and you know, I was working with the auto care clinic, Christian over there. He was saying that the parts for an AP1 transmission were pretty much becoming unobtainium. So I went ahead and pulled the transmission out, and he did a full rebuild on it for me. I have it out in my shed right now, but I pulled it out because only a few years after I bought this car, I found a killer deal on a 2005 AP2 transmission and a 2007 AP2 diff, as well as the drive shaft. So for the last few years, I've actually had an AP2 transmission in this car with the original F20C AP2 drive shaft and AP2 rear end. So full AP2 drivetrain with the AP1 engine. And it's been a joy. It hasn't been as drastic of a change as some people may think, but I'll try to make some POV drives of this car throughout the year. When they rebuilt my AP1 transmission, they actually had to source parts from around the world. Like I think some of the hub and slider kits for the AP1 transmission you had to get from like New Zealand or something, and it took months and months and months to get the parts. So it was even a couple years ago, now that I'm talking about this in 2026 here. But like, it's nice to know that I have a pretty much brand new AP1 transmission with all the wear parts replaced, ready to go back in this car if I get to that point someday. Last track day I really did with this car was Watkins Glen 2023, as I mentioned, and I did have the AP2 transmission and full driveline in the car for that event. So if you wanted to check that out, I'll leave a link in the video description below for the Watkins Glen track footage. But like I said, the difference is only a couple miles an hour per gear in the first 4 gears. 5th gear is almost identical to the AP1, and the 6th gear is a tiny bit longer for high rate cruising. But honestly, it's not that huge of a difference. Maybe at 70 miles an hour, it drops the RPM 1 to 200 RPM, if that, on the highway. So not a huge difference, but I had a killer deal on it, so I've really been enjoying it on the car. So thanks guys for stopping by and watching. You know, this is just kind of an update basically of where my cars are at and where I'm at in life, and trying to be a little more proactive on the channel this year and upload old footage and make some new footage. We'll see what happens. A lot of you guys have been asking for an update, and I just wanted to make this quick video just to share you all the crap I got going on. Thanks for watching guys. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.